Guests, ladies and gentlemen, may we have your attention? Please take your seats as conference proceedings are about to commence. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? We would be grateful if you would take a few moments to listen to the following short safety announcement. On hearing the fire alarm, or in the event of an instruction, we would ask everyone to evacuate the building immediately. Staff will be on hand to assist. Please leave in a calm and orderly manner. The fire exits are located in the corners of the room. Please take a moment now to locate the exit closest to you, bearing in mind that it may be behind you. Then make your way to the assembly point at the front of the physics building, located at the car park side of the hall opposite the main building. We would ask you to remain there until instructed otherwise. Please do not attempt to re-enter the building, even if the alarms have been silenced, as this does not always mean that the emergency is over. I would also like to take this opportunity to ask you to silence all mobile phones now for the duration of the session. Thank you for your cooperation.
Guests, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage your host, journalist and broadcaster Bill Neely.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Good morning on this, bright, brisk, almost balmy Belfast day. I'm Bill Neely. I'm a native of Belfast, and I'm a proud graduate of this fantastic university. Please send your children here. It's a good place. As you probably know, there are two global summits taking place today. COP29, the climate summit in Baku. Many global leaders have sadly decided not to go to that one. And then there's this one. We are now into the third and final day of this Global Innovation Summit for 2024. And we do have global figures and leaders here to discuss some pretty big ideas. As many of you will know, on Tuesday we looked at new ways of doing things and how innovation is vital if we want to move to a more sustainable future. Yesterday, we discussed how everyone needs to be helped, every country, every region, and every business included, if this sustainable future is actually to last. And today, I hope we will tie these themes together by looking at cooperation, partnership, and what we're calling the power of partnership. And we'll be hearing from some of the people who wield power, who can change things, and hopefully can change all of our lives for the better in the future. Well, as your host for today, I will attempt to keep the powerful in check, as every good journalist should. And helping me, I hope, are your real hosts for this conference. And I'd like to welcome them to the stage for the opening remarks of this final day. So please welcome the President and Vice-Chancellor of Queen's University, Professor Sir Ian Greer, and the Honourable Deborah Wince-Smith, who's the President of the GFCC and the President and CEO of the US Council on Competitiveness. Please give them a warm round of applause.
Well, thank you, Bill, and good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Whitla Hall for this, the final day of the 2024 Global Innovation Summit. Over the past days, this summit has provided a truly excellent forum, a forum to discuss some of the most pressing issues that we face in our society today. And today we have another really excellent programme that can maintain that momentum. Our speakers include our First and Deputy First Ministers of Northern Ireland, Michelle O'Neill and Emma Little-Pengelly, the Secretary for State for Northern Ireland, Hilary Benn, the US Special Envoy of Northern Ireland and Queen's Honorary Graduate, Dr. Joe Kennedy III, the Founder and CEO of Tech Women Today, Cecilia Harvey, and the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham. Today we'll explore the power of partnership, a core underpinning part of our mission here at Queen's. Now, inclusive innovation carries a responsibility we take very seriously here at Queen's, and our innovation reaches far into the community. We do that to help our community, to grow our economy, to protect the planet, and of course to empower future generations. We do this through partnership. Partnership has to be at the core of all that we do. Partnership with other universities, with business, with government, with communities, all working together to create a quadruple helix, a virtuous spiral, if you will, of success. And I now call upon Deborah Wince-Smith, President and CEO of the Council of Competitiveness, to the stage. Deborah.
Good morning and welcome to the culminating day of the 2024 Global Summit here in Belfast, addressing these grand challenges at the intersection of sustainability and inclusive prosperity. We have heard from leaders around the world, as well as from leaders here in Belfast and Northern Ireland, about the challenges and opportunities that are going to be things we have to work on together if we will make progress and if we will leave a legacy for the next generation. These two pillars are really at the heart of competitiveness, for without sustainability writ large and including everyone in our societies to contribute and prosper, we will not, going forward, have sustaining prosperity, we will not solve the grand challenges of our day and in the future, and we will not have the quality of life and happiness that we want as human beings. Last night, in the magnificent, historic Great Hall of Queen's University, the GFCC leadership, myself, and our distinguished chairman, Chad Holliday, had the great honor to bestow the 2024 Global Competitiveness Awards to leaders here in Northern Ireland and Ireland who have made a profound difference in advancing the competitiveness agenda, but also really exemplified in their extraordinary careers. So I would just like to recognize those extraordinary leaders who received the awards last night, and on behalf of the GFCC, thank them again for their vision and for what they have done to really make a better world for the next generation. I would like to recognize first Sir Martin Naughton and Dr. Stephen Kingan. These two leaders played a pivotal role after the 25th anniversary celebration and before, of course, for the work they did after the Good Friday Agreement to build the All-Island Competitiveness Forum, and the U.S. Council had the privilege and opportunity to work with them. And then, of course, we recognized the great, wonderful university leader of Queen's, Professor Sir Ian Greer, for his role coming here to Queen's, but throughout his career, as really a leader who was at the pinnacle of higher education and research and development, and as you know, here in Belfast, is really at the heart of the agenda for the new innovation future of Belfast. And then I would like to recognize as well the leaders of the Centre for Competitiveness in Northern Ireland, our partners, Dr. Bob Barbour and Dr. Paul Madden. The Centre for Competitiveness has been a member of the GFCC since its founding some 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Time goes by quickly. And I had the great privilege to come for the inauguration of that Center on Competitiveness back in 2004. I just wanted to share one highlight from yesterday. Many of you in the room were with us, and our chairman, Chad Holliday, mentioned it last night as well. But it was thrilling for all of us to be part, not just witnessing, but to be part of the Datathon of young entrepreneurs who pitched their proposals for social inclusion, for prosperity-driven businesses. And we all had the opportunity to vote on who became the winner. This is a great initiative of Queen's and the business school and all the young people here. And I have to say, I was very proud I did vote for who became the winner. But part of the spirit of the GFCC and part of our mission is to learn and take best practices from around the world back to our respective nations. But one of the things we will do going forward is to build that Datathon. We may call it the Queen's Datathon. We'll come up with a wonderful branded name because you all invented it, to have that as part of every GFCC Global Innovation Summit going forward. As we've heard from Sir Ian, today we'll be addressing the power of partnerships. And we know throughout human history that collaboration and partnerships and working together is the only way we can make progress and accomplish our work, whether it's on a daily basis in our families, with our colleagues, and now, of course, on the global stage. So we're going to address this through a variety of lenses. It's really the exponential power of partnerships that bring together leaders from every dimension of life to work together and create solutions. And this was at the heart also of our 2014 call to action of the GFCC that we hope you all will carry forward in your work. So with that, I'd like to welcome you all for a fantastic day. We're going to hear about what really is at the heart of our world and what we need to do, radical collaboration. And I would like, again, of course, to thank Queen's University and their incredible team of leaders, Ryan Feeney on the Queen's team, and Roberto Alvarez on the GFCC team. They have just done a superb job in bringing this summit to life with their colleagues. So I want to thank them formally here, and I will do so at the end of the day.
Thank you, Deborah, and thank you, Ian. And I should say, by the way, a big welcome to all of those who are not here physically, but who are watching the proceedings here on live stream. I understand people are watching on YouTube all over the world. And they will be very interested in our next speakers, I'm sure. It is my great pleasure to introduce the first of our guest speakers this morning. Neither of them are strangers to this university, having visited and supported its work over the years, and both are from extraordinary political families, but they have, of course, forged their own successful careers on both sides of the Atlantic. Please join me in welcoming the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, Hilary Benn, and the United States Special Envoy to Northern Ireland, Joseph Kennedy III.
Good morning. It is an honour to have been invited to speak here today at the Global Innovation Summit as we together look to the future. Now, much of that future, our future, is uncertain, but I would argue that one thing is clear. If we're going to successfully tackle the challenges and the threats we face as humankind, and you can list them: conflict, poverty, the mass movement of people, loss of biodiversity, climate change, then we're going to have to work together as communities and innovators, businesses, scientists, elected representatives and others to make the most of innovation as we stand on the brink of a new era. It is a pretty daunting task, but I'm a great believer in taking encouragement from what has gone before, and we should take encouragement from the place we're meeting in today, Northern Ireland. A place with a long history of innovation that has had a profound impact on the world and how we live. And that dates back to the Industrial Revolution, when the linen mills and the rope makers here were renowned for the quality of their craftsmanship, setting standards that were envied right across the world. And those early industries, it seems to me, laid a foundation and a culture of innovation that continues to thrive to this day. And some of you here may not realise the full contribution that Northern Ireland has made to the world. Harry Ferguson, who was a visionary from here, helped to invent the modern tractor, which transformed agriculture. John Boyd Dunlop, now I must be fair, he was born in Scotland, but he developed the pneumatic tyre here in Belfast, which revolutionised transport, and of course you see the word Dunlop in tyres all the way around the world to this day. In the field of medicine, a man called Frank Pantridge was born in Royal Hillsborough. He came up with the idea of the portable defibrillator, which has saved many, many, many lives. No wonder he was known as the father of emergency medicine. The very first electrified railway in the United Kingdom was just 60 miles north of here, between Portrush and Bushmills, in 1883, and it used, I am advised, 67 kilowatts of electricity generated from the River Bush. Short Brothers of Belfast, now there's a famous name, they were pioneers of aircraft manufacture. They developed the first successful vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. And if you wanted to get out of one of those planes in a hurry, then the person you have to thank is James Martin. He was from County Down, and he invented the first rocket-powered ejector seat. Martin Baker, famous round the world, those seats have saved over 7,000 lives of people. And Northern Ireland today is renowned, still renowned, for the excellence of its life sciences and advanced manufacturing, with world-class research institutions, and we're meeting in one today, and cutting-edge companies. And at the heart of all of this remains innovation, the very lifeblood of human and economic development. And when you stop and think about it, when you pause for a moment, every single thing, and I mean every single thing we can see around us, has been made from raw materials from the surface of the earth or beneath it. Everything. From the phone in our pockets to the towering skyscrapers that dominate our city skylines, from advanced computers and satellites that connect us globally and tell us literally where on earth in the world we are, to medicines that save lives. It is through relentless innovation that we have shaped the world that we live in today. And how did we do it? Well, quite simply, because human beings have this extraordinary ability to use ideas, trial and error, make and remake, to transform the gifts that the earth has given us into all of these things that we can see. And it is by the very same means that we can and we will make the world of tomorrow. And I just want to touch on two of the challenges we face. One is climate and the other is cybersecurity. Now, nowhere is human ingenuity needed more urgently than in tackling climate change and also in protecting the natural world on which all human life depends. The question is not whether we need to act. The question is how quickly are we going to get on with it? And Northern Ireland, including the whole of the UK, has a legal obligation to reach net zero by 2050. As it so happens, I introduced the world's first climate change legislation in 2007 when I was the Environment Secretary, which set out the framework, the targets, and how progress is going to be measured. Now, getting to net zero is both an economic imperative and it is a huge economic opportunity. Economic imperative because of Nick Stern's groundbreaking report published almost 20 years ago, The Economics of Climate Change. And he told us very simply, he said, you know, the costs of stabilizing the climate are significant, but they're manageable. Delay, however, is dangerous and will cost much, much more money. Make your choice as to what you want to do. And making the UK a clean energy superpower is one of the 5 missions of the new government, and GB Energy will be at the heart of this, a publicly owned energy company designed to encourage investment in clean, homegrown energy, creating jobs and supporting growth across the UK. And Northern Ireland is in a prime position to create green and sustainable growth, and it can be at the forefront of the energy transition because of its resources and geography. Now, all eyes are on the COP, which is taking place in Baku, Azerbaijan, but we can't wait as a world. The transformation to clean energy is beginning to happen, and it is bringing in its wake huge opportunities. Whether it's manufacturing heat pumps or solar panels or hydrogen or cars and buses, look at Wrightbus in Ballymena, as well as offering us the chance to bring down electricity bills from cheaper renewable electricity generation. And you know, if oil was the liquid gold with coal that powered the first industrial revolution, then we in these isles have the blessing of what I would call a new gold, the winds that will power, literally power, the green energy revolution. And just this week, we saw the approval of a new subsea cable between Scotland and Northern Ireland, another sign of the future to come. Now, the task is how do you take ideas to commercial application and production at scale? And that will be absolutely vital to progress. And here we are at Queen's University, which in partnership with the University of Ulster and the Agri-Food and Biosciences Institute have established the Centre for Advanced Sustainable Energy, a centre which shows exactly the benefits of academia working in partnership with industry to fashion the means of decarbonisation and ensure security of supply. So it's a great opportunity and we need to seize it. Turning now to a different threat, look, we're living in very uncertain and dangerous times. We are not seeing the end of history. I fear we are only seeing its repetition. And the very means, information technology, that we have created to run virtually everything, the technology with which each of us interact every single day, brings enormous benefits, but it also leads us as individuals and societies extremely vulnerable. So protecting businesses, services, citizens, governments from malicious attacks by hackers, spammers, cyber criminals is really important, and it is a challenge that is constantly evolving. Cat and mouse, measure and countermeasure, all in the face of the rise in hybrid warfare, cyber attacks, and misinformation campaigns which seek to render our systems helpless and subvert our democracy. And the increasing use of artificial intelligence will only accentuate the benefits of these technologies on the one hand, but also the risks if we don't get it right. Now, to ensure the UK is fully prepared to deal with all the threats we face, in July the Prime Minister commissioned a strategic defence review to report in the first half of next year. But we also need the continued growth and success of our own cybersecurity industries to help protect us. And here in Northern Ireland, again, the cybersecurity sector is a wonderful example of innovation, which is rapidly growing into an economic powerhouse. Governments put investment in, lots of other people have done the same, and we now have a burgeoning community of cybersecurity professionals and enterprises. And it was a great pleasure for me recently to visit the Centre for Secure Information Technologies at Queen's University in the Titanic Quarter. It is now rightly renowned as a global leader in cybersecurity research and innovation, a truly remarkable growth in that sector in Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland is becoming the #1 destination for US foreign direct investment in cybersecurity, the #1 destination. And being here today gives me the opportunity to turn to you, Joe, and to thank you for everything that you have done for the people of Northern Ireland in your role as US Special Envoy. Every single one of us appreciates the enormous effort and ingenuity and determination you have put into your role. There are 128 companies that have commercial or research and development cybersecurity teams here in Northern Ireland. We're making progress here in Northern Ireland towards achieving the target of 5,000 cybersecurity jobs by 2030. And this is momentum that not only strengthens the economy, but enhances our security against these threats. So, it is innovation which has helped to bring humankind to this point in our development. And frankly, we're going to need all of the innovation in all of the sizes and all of the colours and all of the shapes and all of the forms to help us move forward from here. Our future may be uncertain, but it will be determined above all by political leadership, what societies choose to do. However, innovation will have such an important part in helping us to find a way forward. And to judge by Northern Ireland's own history alone of enterprise and ideas, we know that we've done it before, and being an optimist, I would say there's absolutely no reason why we can't do it again. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. Mr. Secretary, well said as always, and thank you for your kind words, the vision that you articulate, your service to the people of Northern Ireland. And it has been a pleasure and an honor for me to be able to work with you these past several months in service to the people here. So, sir, thank you for letting me share the stage with you this morning. It's been about 8 hours since I was last at Queen's, so it's great to be back, everybody. Vice Chancellor Greer, it's wonderful to see you again, sir. Thank you for welcoming us once again. The First Ministers, who we saw and who will be out on stage briefly, an honor to be with them as always, and to so many friends and distinguished guests in the audience, thank you for the opportunity to be here with you this morning. To the visiting delegates and members of the Global Federation of Competitiveness Councils, welcome to Northern Ireland. I know that you will receive the same warmth that I have received as the envoy here. About 20 miles from Belfast, among the rolling hills of County Down, you'll find a life-size bronze statue of one of Northern Ireland's most famous sons. Harry Ferguson, grew up on his family's farm between Hillsborough and Dromore. He started work as an apprentice in his brother's garage business, but his real passion was aviation. Just 2 weeks after Wilbur and Orville Wright made their first powered flight across North Carolina in the sand dunes, Ferguson piloted a monoplane of his own design. It went airborne for a full 130 yards, 12 feet above the ground. Looking on, his peers described him as, quote, a mad mechanic. There's a word stemming from these parts that I've learned over my 2 years here as Special Envoy. It's the word, if I got the pronunciation right, thran. To our visiting guests, it is a Scottish word and it's a description of stubbornness. Yes, they even created their own word for it. Harry Ferguson's first forays into the sky occurred after many failures, but his dogged spirit would help him triumph as one of the most influential entrepreneurs of the 20th century. In 1914, as we heard, he began to sell American tractors. Finding them cumbersome and dangerous to operate, he designed, patented, and built improvements. His innovations would soon mark the most important leap forward in agricultural practice since the invention of the plow. Ferguson's work caught the attention of a man named Henry Ford, who invited him to his headquarters in Dearborn, Michigan. After protracted negotiations, the two men came to a gentleman's agreement, the only partnership that Ford ever entered into. To anyone watching on, it was a match made in heaven. Ferguson would provide the engineering genius and Ford the mass production. What followed was a spectacular fallout and the most high-profile industrial legal case of the 20th century. Ford's grandson felt like the family had made a terrible deal, and he took aggressive steps to terminate it. Ferguson responded by setting up his own plant right on Ford's doorstep in Detroit. He also hired the best lawyers he could afford and went to war with Ford in the courts. For 4 years, there were two versions of a Ferguson tractor being built in the US, one by Ford and one by Ferguson. The story between a US corporate giant and an Ulster maverick reminds us that bitter rivalry can, in fact, well, be bitter. But it also reminds us how competition can push innovation, value for money, and opportunity to new limits. Today, at tractor shows across the United States, the Massey Ferguson and Ford tractor owners still debate the relative merits and the capabilities of their equipment. Ironically, it is a red and blue divide. That is how it is. Why not, folks? Why not? What is beyond debate, though, is that together, Ferguson and Ford revolutionized agricultural practice. From the Central Valley in California to the prairies and grasslands of our Great Plains, our struggling small farmers were the beneficiaries of their stubborn, individual quest for perfection. Crop production also increased across Europe because of their cutting-edge machinery and the millions of mouths that were fed after the devastation of World War II. The story of Harry Ferguson and Henry Ford explains how competition is a vital driver for progress and economic growth. Elementary economics teaches us that the free market and private business tend to provide the very best goods and services at the lowest prices that their balance sheets can bear. They do this because consumers have a luxury of choice. In parallel, market responds to fluctuations in a way that moves our economies towards equilibrium. Competition, though, is the bedrock of regulated capitalism. And it's why I want to recognize the Global Federation of Competitive Councils for their important role in making sure that these markets work. You understand the ingredients that are required to accelerate productivity, inclusive growth, and prosperity around the world. And your engagements help to disseminate and share international best practices. You've also come to a truly great place for this conference. We heard some of the history here already articulated by the Secretary of State. And through the years, the role that this beautiful campus has had has gone far beyond the provision of education. It has also been the scene of cross-community collaboration and a meeting place for free exchange of ideas, of knowledge, of hope and opportunity. My first visit to Queens was in April last year. As most of you know, this institution was the focal point for commemorations around the 25th anniversary of the Belfast Good Friday Agreement. For many Americans, that conference reminded us of an important milestone and a highlight of our foreign policy. But on a human level, it allowed us to share in the success of a region that we hold very dear to our hearts. I've congratulated Vice Chancellor Greer on a number of times, and I will do so again, not just for his work back then, but for making this week's conference possible as well. I want to also recognize Dr. Stephen Kingham, who's played a pivotal role in force of policy development and economic competitiveness here. Stephen, I know that you're stepping down from the Queen's University Senate. I also know the influence that you have had and the positive impact that you have created will long remain. Yesterday, I became an honorary graduate of this institution. Thank you. That will remain, and thank you, one of the greatest honors of my life. As Queen's approaches its 180th year, I've learned how it has evolved and adapted. And it's to the enduring credit of its leadership and staff that this university is much more than a center of academic excellence. You're a force for positive transformation, driving prosperity, conducting research that genuinely impacts places like Northern Ireland and a global stage. Collectively, you recognize that education is the bedrock of an economy and that every single young person should have the chance to learn, to grow, and to pursue their aspirations. You followed through by increasing access to underrepresented groups. You're pivoting to communities with higher rates of poverty. You're helping students from low-income backgrounds get a fighting chance. My tenure as your envoy is, as you know, coming to an end. But I will say this. President Biden took office in the midst of a global pandemic with far-reaching and global economic consequences. Averting a much-predicted recession, he pledged to build an economy from the bottom up and middle out, not the top down. During the president's tenure, 15 million new jobs were added to an American economy. Our unemployment rate fell to its lowest levels in decades, and GDP in absolute terms grew to its highest levels in history. For decades, corporate consolidation had been accelerating. A limited pool of large companies across healthcare, financial services, agriculture were controlling more business and expanding their market share. Barriers to competition were also driving down wages for workers, and that lack of competition drove up prices. Higher prices and lower wages caused a lack of competition that were costing the median American household $5,000 per year. In response, the president signed an ambitious executive order in 2021 to tackle some of the most pressing problems in our economy. Its core aim was to preserve and promote healthy competition. The order included 72 initiatives by more than a dozen federal agencies, and it resulted in concrete improvements to people's lives. And folks, I don't know what the next few months or years will hold for the United States and the world. But our continued prosperity and stability will remain dependent on the core principles of openness, interdependence, cooperation, not isolation and protectionism. Equally, basic economic theory will not change with an administration. Healthy market competition will remain a prerequisite for global order and well-functioning economies. As I look around the room, I know that I will leave Northern Ireland with an awful lot of new friends. While America has helped broker political agreements, it's the people of Northern Ireland who agreed to them. And as I've witnessed firsthand, leadership comes in many forms, especially in the business world. As a region, rather than a sovereign state, you don't have all of the policy levers that are available to some others. However, devolution brought additional policy options and opportunities similar to those of independent states. In recent years, your growth and productivity has accelerated. That growth is underpinned by data that ranks Belfast as one of the leading cities in the developed nations. Metrics like jobs, skills, and business startups all rank high. Optimism is important. Highlighting the progress and drawing on success usually tends to generate further success. And when I talk to Americans, I remain a firm champion and advocate to Northern Ireland as a world-class place to live, to visit, to study, and to invest. I'm not oblivious to your challenges. Your economy minister has recently announced 4 key priorities shortly after he took over in the position. And among these was to increase productivity levels. As he said at the time, closing the productivity gap and increasing competitiveness will not be the work of a single agency or department. The connectedness of policymakers, heads of business, entrepreneurs, and educational leaders will be key to unlock this region's full potential. I know how much talent resides in this place. And I resolve to give all that I can and to promote the collective ability to confront every single challenge and seize every opportunity that you face. To our visiting delegates, I wish you well for a very successful conference. Your commitment to innovation, inclusiveness, and partnership gives us all a lot of hope and encouragement. America's 16th president, Abraham Lincoln, is credited for saying that the best way to predict your future is to create it. In that spirit, let's go out there and create something marvelous. Thank you so much for having me this morning.
Gentlemen, thank you both. That was so stimulating. I think we've been lucky to have both here. Hilary Benn, a former Environment Minister, of course, to remind us of the climate crisis and that extraordinary observation. We are living in dangerous times. We're not seeing the end of history, only its repetition. And from Joe Kennedy, that extraordinary story of Harry Ferguson and Henry Ford, of competition, innovation, and let's say some of the issues that can throw up. Our next speakers are also from the world of politics and of power, and they're also huge supporters of the work that's done here at Queen's University. In fact, for one of them, that goes right back to her own student days here. They are leaders of this region, this country. So for them, the issues that we're discussing here are a daily responsibility and a constant challenge. Northern Ireland, as we all know, was one of the most deprived and underdeveloped areas of the UK, and it still has so many challenges ahead of it. So please welcome to the stage two women who are trying together in many ways to give this region and all of our people a more prosperous future. The first and Deputy First Ministers of Northern Ireland, Michelle O'Neill and Emma Little-Pengelly. We are going to hear from both of them, but protocol demands that we hear first from the First Minister, Michelle O'Neill.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. It's a real pleasure to join you all this morning on the third day of what is a hugely important and significant conference. For those of you that are visiting Belfast for the first time, you're most welcome. For those of you that are returning, thank you for returning. And I do hope that over the course of these few days that you get a chance to experience all that we have to offer here, which is very much something that we're very proud of, and no doubt will encourage you to come back whenever you see all of that. I think that the global dimension to this summit is incredibly exciting, because even on a very local level, I feel that there's always so much to be gained from dialogue across a whole range of issues facing our society. And I think that whenever we take those conversations worldwide, when we share our insights, when we share our experiences, when we share innovation, best practice, I think it opens up hugely enormous opportunities to deliver for people and communities locally, as well as contribute to global prosperity and sustainability. We have so much to learn from each other, as not through in every walk of life and in every day. And I would like to think that whenever it comes to the theme of the day, the power of partnership, that Emma and I exemplify that in our own office and what we're trying to achieve in working together. So it's in that context that I want to frame my contribution today. Our political institutions, our parish, our executive, our legislative assembly, are all very much built on a partnership approach, born out of the Good Friday Agreement itself, which in itself was a partnership for peace and prosperity, and which I believe has been the foundation of all of our progress. And like any partnership and our political arrangements, they aren't perfect, they aren't always easy, but that's okay. We all come to the table with different perspectives, different experiences, but we have to respect those differences. We're willing to listen, to compromise, and to find a balance. And I do believe that we're always going to be stronger as a direct result of all of that. Partnership comes from a shared determination to achieve a common goal. And for me, as First Minister, that goal is about leading our society forward into a shared, prosperous and hopeful future, and that we have to work together to achieve all of that. And I think in that there are important lessons for collaborating to advance society and the economy across the globe. Global sustainability must be a priority for all governments around the world, and that requires foresight, vision and commitment to plant the seeds to bear fruit that only future generations might enjoy. And I'm absolutely determined that we on this island play our part to achieve this goal. Global sustainability requires collaboration and cooperation without limitations. It is only through that sustainable development that we can drive long-term economic prosperity and ultimately improve the quality of lives of people living here and across the world. And that's what it all comes down to, making people's lives better today and into the future. I think that's our common and collective ambition in our Power Sharing Executive, our common goal, if you like. But we must continue to reach out beyond boundaries of government if we're going to achieve all that we want to achieve. I believe that it's only through collaboration across sectors, industry, the community, that we can deliver an ambitious agenda for change which benefits all people. We're out to consultation right now on our programme for government, and we've just concluded our consultation on the programme for government, and we are realising the power of this partnership in the voices that we have heard from all walks of life, from different perspectives, on how we're going to tackle some of the biggest issues facing our people. My priority and that of the executive colleagues is about building a better future, transforming services for everyone. We have to invest in our public services, we have to protect our environment and to grow a competitive and sustainable economy. And I do believe that by improving our competitiveness, we can create that roadmap to prosperity with sustainable jobs and delivering higher standards of living. And key to the success of growing our economy will be our people. We in this small island punch well above our weight in terms of the skills and life experience that we bring. We have high levels of life satisfaction, high levels of happiness, low levels of loneliness, and a very young population that is increasing life expectancy. We now have an enviable low unemployment rate, and we have achieved a huge reduction in our youth unemployment, now a third of what it once was 10 years ago. More young people are in education, training, or employment, and they're making such a positive contribution to our economy. And that immense talent provides strong foundations. So we have an awful lot to be positive about. But we also can't afford to sit still. We know we need to continue to keep striving forward. And I'm mindful that whilst government sets the ambition and the priorities, we have to, if we want to be successful, actively collaborate with everyone out there to deliver our vision for growth and prosperity. And in particular, we need the support and engagement of employers, our workforce, to identify and build the skills that are needed now and into the future. By better working together, we will be able to respond to the demands of a dynamic economy that we are seeking to create. And I know yesterday, for any of you that were here, you would have heard from our Economy Minister the strategic vision that we have for our economy, including increasing the number of good jobs, promoting regional balance, raising productivity and reducing carbon emissions. And I do believe that excellent work has progressed in this area, but we do know that key to our success is absolutely going to be in partnership. We have made some developments ourselves, Emma and I, in our executive office to support the partnership approach that we offer to society. We've appointed a new Chief Scientific and Technical Advisor and have plans to establish a Science Technology Advisory Network. And we believe together that that work will provide the executive with the expert advice that will support innovation and support innovative investment that will help industry attract new research and development funding. Over the last decades, we've made great strides in the amount of electricity we generate from renewable sources, and again, this is an area where there is more to be done. To meet our 2030 targets, that will require continued focus on energy efficiency, and we need to embrace absolutely every opportunity to transition to net zero. We in government need to do our part within the public sector, and we have committed a further £75 million via investment to save in our journey to net zero. We also recognise the need to create the right market conditions to deliver investment in our low-carbon and renewable energy economy. And these investments and improvements also need to be experienced by all of our citizens, so everybody needs to feel part of what we are trying to achieve. I think that we have much to be proud of here. I think that we have much to be proud of in terms of our educational institutions, the other areas that I have talked about. We want everybody in society to be able to avail of world-class education. And I believe that by providing accessible education, communities will always experience a boost in their local economy and have the skills and the knowledge for the future. So delegates, is the journey challenging? Yes, it is. Are the challenges insurmountable? No, they are not. I am determined, we are determined to provide the leadership and to strengthen the partnerships necessary to move our society forward. We want to accelerate growth and prosperity, to deliver a thriving and sustainable economy that delivers for all of our people, and to play our part in driving progress towards a globally sustainable future. And I hope that you will join us in all of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Michelle. A very uplifting message: partnership, progress, and that refreshing word in Northern Ireland, compromise. Thank you very much. And now, a graduate of this university in law, I think, correct? Got my facts right, that's good. And like Michelle, a respected politician in this region and beyond. Ladies and gentlemen, the Deputy First Minister of Northern Ireland, Emma Little-Pengelly.
Thank you, thank you. It's a privilege to join with you this morning and have the opportunity to make some remarks at this global event. And of course, always great to be back at Queen's University, where I've had so many happy memories. This year's event focuses on sustainable and economic inclusion. The themes for each day of this conference strike a chord with the work that myself and Michelle have been pushing forward as we jointly lead the Northern Ireland Executive. I want to add to what Michelle has said this morning in terms of our ambition. The First Minister and I have a determination to deliver. Across the globe, people want to see positive change in their everyday lives. Citizens want and need to see their governments deliver, and that demands a new way of doing business. Driving innovation, creative, collaborative working to find the right solutions for the right challenges, implemented by harnessing the power of technological advancements and new ways of working. We all need a new approach, but that provides an incredible opportunity. My goodness, what a time to be in these positions, because the advancements in terms of technology, including in AI, have such potential in relation to not just business, but in politics and how we do business. As First Minister said, we recently concluded our consultation on the draft programme for government, engaging with people throughout Northern Ireland and listening to their views, particularly of the key stakeholders on our priorities for government. And of course, what they've said is what we thought that they would. What they want to see is a thriving Northern Ireland with a focus on growing our economy. They want us to be globally competitive and ensuring that people have access to quality, well-paid jobs. And the key themes, of course, is a commitment to reform and transformation of our public services. As already mentioned from this platform, the Northern Ireland of today is a very changed place. From an economy based on shipbuilding and linen mills to one today where we are global leaders in sectors such as cyber security, fintech, advanced manufacturing, and health and life sciences. We have been truly transformed over the course of the last 25 years. But we know that there is more to do. But building on this success, I believe that we have an exciting future for Northern Ireland. We have a young and well-educated workforce. We have a business-friendly environment where government, business and academia work together. We have emerging strengths in the creative industries and continue to attract investment from overseas, but we are developing those specialisms and specialities across a range of key industries. That provides an incredible opportunity for us all to work hand in hand, government with academia, with business, with those that have creative ideas of how to shatter through and make sure that Northern Ireland can become that thriving place. The first day of this year's conference explored how technological advancements and creative solutions can drive sustainability. In government, we need to embrace new technologies as we move towards a cleaner and more sustainable future. Governments have been much too slow to embrace technological change and the way that we can utilise that to improve the way that we do business. Now, many will say that's no big surprise because unfortunately the history of government departments in terms of embracing or attempting to embrace big digital projects has not necessarily been great. Nevertheless, we have to seize that opportunity because all of us, including in this room, are fully aware of the pressures, not just on our government and our public services, but these are pressures right across the globe. Our public services are under immense pressure, and that is why we need to do things differently. And indeed, by working collaboratively and getting creative solutions, we can increase efficiency and drive productivity, and the end result of that will be a better service for the citizens of this place. That is a win in terms of improving outcomes and driving delivery. The focus of today is on the power of partnership. For me, collaboration is more than a buzzword. It is how good decisions are made and how innovation is mainstreamed. Working together inside and outside of government is key to problem solving. Very often we talk about the challenges within our system of government here. It is slow, it can be difficult to get agreement, it requires compromise. And those can be weaknesses, those can be things that slow progress down. But it is also a system that brings in diversity, different voices, different views around a table. And as we know, when it comes to decision making, when it comes to policy development, when it comes to trying to get to the right outcome on a particular issue, that can all be a really good thing. That diversity can be our strength, not just in terms of throughout Northern Ireland, but even within our government and within the office that Michelle and I work in. I am optimistic about the future and how we can achieve our potential. But having a strong economy will be key to that prosperity. The rate of employment in Northern Ireland has recovered to pre-COVID levels and unemployment has reached record lows. But the number of people economically inactive remains high despite some progress over the last decade. The Skills for a 10x Economy strategy was developed in partnership with industry and published in 2022, providing a strategic framework for the development of our skills system to 2030. A flexible skills system, providing the opportunity for people of all ages, makes our labour market more responsive and inclusive, ensuring we are well placed for opportunities. We are ambitious for delivery. As well as building on the solid foundations of our people, we want to drive sustainability by providing an environment where companies can develop and thrive. As mentioned, over the last 10 years, our labour productivity has been growing and we've been closing the productivity gap with the rest of the UK, but we know that we need to do more. I read with interest about the panel conversation that was hosted yesterday, which explored how digitisation can transform productivity, not only for companies, but for regions and nations and governments and our public services. The discussion covered the preparation of societies, institutions and individuals and offered best practice for fostering a digitally adept workforce and economy, ensuring that all levels of society are prepared to thrive in a digitally driven world. Instead of being frightened by this change, we need to embrace it. We need to genuinely look for the opportunities, working with partners and ensuring that it is implemented in a way that produces that efficiency and increases our productivity. Artificial intelligence has the potential to transform government, improving that efficiency and effectiveness, utilising data to improve decision making and predicting future trends. automating and analysing reports, and ensuring a more people-centric approach to engagement with state services. Thanks to Project Stratum, we have high rates of access to full fibre broadband, along with rapidly expanding 5G network. We also have a great track record of nurturing successful global companies and startups, and recognised as a key player when it comes to cybersecurity, regtech, fintech, and advanced manufacturing. There are also areas that we can look to expand and develop further to drive innovation and to realise the sustainable productivity gains we desire. We also look to build that growth we've been experiencing in research and development. We know that government must do better in that regard. Not only should we be a key enabler for growth, but we also must remove the barriers to growth. This is one of the key reasons we recently appointed Professor Helen McCarthy to the post of Chief Scientific and Technology Advisor to the Northern Ireland Executive. A key priority to drive this growth is our commitment to support local business to harness new innovations in clean growth technology, which will contribute to our net zero target. We have an abundance of natural resources here, including wind and geothermal, which could be sufficient to supply not just our own needs, but the needs of others across these shores. We do realise, however, there is no point in being ambitious, setting out our priorities and missions, if we don't provide a robust monitoring and evaluation framework by which to keep track of how we are doing. We have put in place what is called our PFG Wellbeing Framework indicators, and while that might sound dull to many people out there, we all know in this room how important that is to monitor that progress. And this is the key thing, in my view, about how we are determined to do business differently. We must look at that data, we must identify what is working, what is not working, but more importantly than that, because data can tell us what's happening, and it's really, really important, but we need to be responsive to that data. We must have that agility within government and within our institutions to be able to read that data, analyse that data, but also to apply that data. And if something is not working, to do something differently. We all know that these incredible technologies and these advancements will only be of help to us if we use them in the correct way. And of course, governments very often are the most Luddite of all when it comes to these things, but we want to be at the forefront of this. Northern Ireland, being a small place, has that opportunity to be that test bed for some of that innovation, to learn from that and to do government differently. The key message globally that I am hearing in terms of governments and democracies is a disappointment about delivery. And I think everybody who is involved in politics and government needs to listen to that wake-up call and realise that we need to do things differently. And instead of trying to shy away from those advancements that can help us to deliver, we need to embrace them. And that is my message here this morning. We are living in a time of incredible development and advancement. The challenge is ours in politics and in business. How do we seize that opportunity? Tackling climate change, efficiency, productivity, creativity. But it's also an incredibly exciting time. And working together with Michelle, working together with our head of the civil service and throughout our system, and importantly, working together with you in academia and in business and in civic society, I know that we will deliver against our ambitious agenda. Thank you very much.
Emma, thank you very much. What a, as you say, what a time it is to be in politics. I think we all wish you both the very best of luck in everything that you're trying to do for this province. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank them again. Thank you. So over the past couple of days, we've heard quite a few inspirational keynote speakers, beginning with, and any of you who were here to hear him, beginning with the physicist, Professor Brian Cox, who literally brought, well, he didn't literally, but he brought the galaxy and the stars to this hall. Well, today is no different. We have another star, and I hope more inspiration. Our keynote speaker this morning has blazed a trail for women in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. She is a passionate advocate of promoting diversity in a tech world that, as we know, is too often dominated by men. She founded Tech Women Today to advance the representation of women in technology and to help entrepreneurs who perhaps are not tech savvy, but who nonetheless rely on technology for business growth. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Cecilia Harvey.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. We definitely gather here in Belfast in a time when we're witnessing just rapid changes in technology, society, and in the economy. Innovation is driving transformation at an unprecedented pace. I think there's absolutely no denying of that. And technology, particularly artificial intelligence, is definitely at the heart of that change. But as we think about innovation, let me share with you a metaphor. The elephant. One of my favorite animals, but the elephant, of course, it's a powerful creature, capable of shaping the landscape with its strength. But an elephant's real strength is not in its size. An elephant's real strength is in its partnership within the ecosystem. When an elephant digs for water in dry riverbeds, they don't just quench their own thirst, but what they're doing is that they're creating water sources that sustain not only its own species, but many other species. And also, if you look, that small little bird on the back of the elephant, it's called the oxpecker. And what the oxpecker does is that it provides protection for the elephant, and it will warn the elephant when danger is coming. You learn something new every day, right? But the elephant, the ecosystem that it's in, the ecosystem of this interdependence, that's where the power is. And that's the secret of not only survival, but also for thriving. But similarly, technology and innovation can't thrive in isolation. We need partnerships between industries, government, and communities in order to ensure that they benefit all, and not just a select few. And that's what I'm here to talk about today, because the power of partnerships and how together we can drive collective progress towards sustainable, but also equitable change. Now, of course, you can't have a conference without talking about artificial intelligence. And the reality is that artificial intelligence, it's definitely embedded in just everything that we do. When I start having a discussion with my mother about artificial intelligence, you absolutely know that it's embedded in everything that we do. This is a woman who thinks that the fax machine is at the height of technology advancement. So, when we start talking about artificial intelligence, it scares me, but I think it also excites me that I'm having these conversations with my mother. But in 2030 alone, by 2023 alone, AI has contributed approximately $2 trillion to global GDP. And that's a number that's going to be projected to nearly double by 2030. That change is unbelievable and unprecedented. AI is not only reshaping industries, but it's also redefining the social fabric. So as a result of that, we as leaders, we have an obligation to ensure that AI is inclusive, that it's equitable, and that it's ethical and accessible to all. So innovation that doesn't consider the communities it impacts is a missed opportunity. But that's why it's so important to really understand that collaboration is the key to sustainable innovation. The reality is that we can't do this alone. The most powerful innovations happen at the intersections, where different sectors, industries, and communities are coming together. So what's absolutely key that we need to remember is that collaboration is going to be absolutely key. A strong example is the partnership between Google's DeepMind and the NHS in the UK. By using AI to analyze eye scans, they've accelerated the diagnosis of over 50 eye diseases. So this partnership is not only demonstrating that AI's potential to improve healthcare, but also it serves as a model for how industries and public institutions need to join forces in order to create life-saving opportunities. Similarly, the International Solar Alliance, a coalition of about 120 countries and several global companies, has set an ambitious goal of generating 1,000 gigawatts of solar energy by 2030. So just to put this into perspective, 1 gigawatt of solar power can typically power around 190,000 homes a year. So 1,000 gigawatts of solar could theoretically supply power to nearly 200 million homes. That's helping to meet the electricity needs of large populations worldwide. So reaching this scale would be transformative for energy security, economic stability, and also climate goals. So this collaboration has catalyzed solar projects that have not only helped to reduce carbon emissions, but it creates jobs. It transforms communities. It's highlighting how public and private cooperation can create sustainable, far-reaching impact. These examples reflect the strength of partnerships, much like how elephants need to work together in herds in order to alter the environment. These examples are helping to create pathways and resources that support the entire ecosystem and not just a select few. One of the things that I love talking about is really the future of work, because that's really where I feel there's just so much opportunity, especially in terms of technology innovation and especially with AI. The future of work is perhaps one of the most discussed aspects of digital transformation. The World Economic Forum's Future for Jobs report states that nearly 23% of jobs globally are expected to change by 2027. Not that far away. And that's definitely been driven by automation, AI, and also the green transition. Additionally, around 44% of workers' core skills are going to need to be updated over the next 5 years to align to evolving job demands. Now, this is definitely a challenge, but also the opportunity here is that this shift emphasizes the urgency of upskilling as businesses adapt to those technological transformations and also the economic pressures also. But while, yes, there is definitely concern about job displacement, but I believe that the future of work holds great promise if we collaborate, we create partnerships, and we prepare for it. This is where education, upskilling, and also adaptability come into play. So one example is Singapore's Future Skills Initiative. This is a national movement that's aimed at providing every citizen with continual learning opportunities to stay competitive. So this really involves this collaboration between government, educational institutions, and also private companies that are offering pathways to people at every stage of their career. So much like how elephants need to guide their young and their community through routes to access water and resources, we must also make sure that we are preparing our workforce to navigate a future with both adaptability and resilience. So governments, educational institutions, and industries must work hand in hand to ensure that no one gets left behind. Because while there's tremendous opportunity with technology advancement in the direction that AI is going in, one thing that's absolutely critical that we cannot lose sight on is ensuring that we're working together in partnerships to make sure that no one is left behind. And then there's the question of sustainability. So the global challenges that we face, whether it's climate change, inequality, or economic disparity, those challenges are far too vast for any one sector or organization to solve alone. We need partnerships, because those partnerships are going to amplify our impact, just as ecosystems rely on the interdependence of their species, same way. Consider the development of sustainable cities or smart cities. And in Amsterdam, a collaboration between city government, citizens, and private companies has led to advancements in waste reduction, energy efficiency, and pollution control. This partnership has created a model for urban sustainability that other cities can follow worldwide. So just as elephants are sustaining countless lives in their ecosystems, our collaborations can drive progress that is sustainable and equitable for all. So there is absolutely no question, in my opinion, that sustainability is the ultimate goal of innovation. Absolutely no question. Technology is our tool, but collaboration is going to be our engine. And together we can drive progress towards a more sustainable and equitable future. So in closing, I definitely want to leave you with this. We're not just building our technology, we're building our future. The challenges ahead, absolutely, they're significant, but they're not insurmountable. So if we continue to innovate responsibly and work together across sectors, we can create a world that is sustainable, equitable, and full of opportunity for everyone. And I think that that's the key, creating opportunity for everyone. And each of us really working together to really make sure that we have an understanding of what's the part that we are going to play in the ecosystem. How can we together understand the role that we will play in adding impact, and not only ensuring that we have the right ecosystems for ourselves, but understanding how we're contributing to others' ecosystems. Absolutely key. And understanding what the value proposition of that is going to be absolutely fundamental. So like the elephant, I think we're most impactful when we're connected, when we're all part of a thriving ecosystem. So this requires a commitment from all of us, not just a few, not just some, but all of us, and having that understanding of the part that we play in the ecosystem and the impact that we're going to create. It requires us to step outside of our silos and to embrace partnerships that push us further than what we can do alone. So it's time to think beyond short-term gains and to focus on long-term progress. And that means progress that benefits everyone, everywhere. Thank you.
Cecilia, thank you very much. A message there. Gosh, it applies in the world of politics as well, doesn't it? And when she says to step outside of our silos is one of the things we need to do in this divided world, and to stop the short-term thinking and think long-term. Ladies and gentlemen, before we take a short break, we can hear now from one of the key event sponsors who have helped make this whole conference possible, and I'd like to take this opportunity on behalf of Queen's and of this conference to thank Northern Ireland Electricity for their support. But please give an electric welcome to the Managing Director of NIE, Mr. Derek Hines.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for your time in attending and contributing to the last 3 days here in Belfast. We believe that we are incredibly lucky to live and work in this part of the world, and are very proud to welcome delegates from so many different places here this week. We in NIE Networks recognise that we are a small company in a small place on a small island. While we have been close friends with the Centre for Competitiveness here for many years, this event is a vivid reminder to us all of the power of global partnership, and will hopefully encourage us to look outside of ourselves and our shores for examples of how we can do things better, and to take confidence from the success and progress of others all over the world. NIE Networks owns the electricity network that connects each of the 929,000 homes and businesses here in Northern Ireland, and we provide the pathway for electricity to flow to all of our people here. And we are probably the only company that has a relationship with literally everyone in Northern Ireland. Thankfully, most people are only interested in us when they are connecting their home or business or when the lights go out, but this is changing. We are right now rebuilding the electricity network to increase the capacity in our substations and the wires and cables that connect our communities. This is part of our plan to deliver a sustainable energy system for all in Northern Ireland. Our plan is when you move from petrol and diesel to electric vehicles, that the electricity network will fulfill your car charging needs without you having to worry about it. Our plan is that when you choose to move from oil or gas to electric heating in your home, you won't have to worry about whether the electricity network can support this choice. This means that we will provide you with an electricity network that has the capacity to do this. A network that is reliable enough that you can trust that it will be there whenever you need it, and a network that doesn't cost you any more than it absolutely needs to do. We want you to not to have to give us a second thought. We want to be your trusted, quiet partner as you make the changes in your home or business that reduces the carbon intensity of what you do. We encourage our people in NIE Networks to see their role as working for Northern Ireland. The decisions that they make about how we rebuild the electricity network will make it what you need it to be. I hope that we can create a supportive environment for our people in NIE Networks so that they can love their work and do great things for our electricity network and for Northern Ireland. And this work requires partnership in all forms. We try to partner with our politicians so that together we can create the right conditions to attract the investment that we need to do this work and to make Northern Ireland an investable place. We want to partner with our policy makers and our regulator so that the economic and energy policies here in Northern Ireland attract companies to invest here. And we want to partner with the businesses that are here already so that we can together reduce our carbon intensity and make an honest contribution to a better natural environment. These steps will improve the health and long-term happiness of all that live here and will create great futures for our children. NIE Networks believe in our mission to deliver a sustainable energy system for all because we believe that a sustainable energy system is a building block for a happy, healthy and hopeful society. Partnership is how we will make a difference. We are committed to strengthening our existing partnerships and forging new ones, guided by the belief that together we can power a brighter, more sustainable future for all. So thank you.
Derek, thank you very much. Power in all its forms is very much the theme of today. You'll be relieved that we're going to take a short break now, what the Americans call a comfort break. However you'd like to interpret that. There's tea and coffee in the marquee in the main quad, and also out there you will see a lot of young people. They are trying to become the entrepreneurs of the future. They're from an organization called Young Enterprise, which, believe it or not, has helped 90,000 young people so far. They are looking for inspiration, and you can inspire them. So please, just go up and say hello, as well as have your tea, have your coffee. Can we say 10 minutes? It's now just before 11. Please, if you could be strict and be back here at 10 past 11, that would be great. Thank you very much indeed. Enjoy the break.
Guests, ladies and gentlemen, may we have your attention? Please take your seats as conference proceedings are about to commence. Thank you. Guests, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the stage your host, Bill Neely.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for coming back so promptly. We're going to move on to our first panel discussion, and it's entitled Breaking Barriers. Just over a century ago, women helped create a revolution. They worked in munitions factories during World War I while the men were fighting, and of course, tens of thousands of them dying on the front. Millions of women worked in those factories. They changed the economy profoundly, and their work, of course, paved the way for their vote. Women's suffrage couldn't have happened without women working in those factories and changing the economy. Well, next, we will hear today's story, the impact the women of today are having in shaping a new and innovative economy. Please welcome to this panel discussion your moderator, Professor Karen McCluskey, who is the Associate Pro Vice-Chancellor here at Queen's. And please welcome to our panel Dr. Raja Al Ghurg, the Group Managing Director and Chairperson of the Issa Salah Al Ghurg Group from the United Arab Emirates, Claire McGee, who is the CEO of Awaken Hub, Awaken Angels of Northern Ireland. In the middle, Sinead Rocks, who's the Managing Director of Nations and Regions at the British TV company Channel 4. Ambassador Barbara Stevenson, the Vice Provost for Global Affairs and the Chief Global Officer of the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill in the United States. And finally, Athena Chatsi-Petru, a Distinguished Fellow at the GFCC from Greece. Welcome to you all. Karen, over to you.
Thank you everyone for joining this panel discussion today. And we're going to be exploring the impact of women in shaping innovation across several contexts, including the media, business, entrepreneurship, public service, and higher education. Women leaders have been delivering positive change, breaking the molds of previous thinking patterns, reshaping industries, and pioneering profound change. Today's distinguished panel will be sharing their unique insights, their personal experiences, reflections, and their values, and how they and others have been delivering real impact. I'm thrilled to be on the platform with these distinguished members, and you have heard a little bit about them. I'd encourage you to look at their bios in the app of the conference, and we're going to jump straight into what promises to be a dynamic and an exciting discussion. I'm going to come first to Athena, and I wonder if you could set the scene for us with some key facts and reflections on women's representation leading across tech, science, business, and other sectors.
Good morning to all. Okay. Thank you very much for this invitation in this exciting panel and this exciting conference. And I will start with some figures, as my background is finance, and everyone believes that I know better the figures. So, over the past few years, countless tech professionals have set inspirational programs to support women in tech. But fact remains that women occupy only 22% of all tech roles across European companies. And let's dive a little bit into the problem. Well, girls are interested in STEM at age 11, but have a change of heart by age 15. The main reason for this switch is a lack of role models. That's why it's very important and critical to have similar panels. Cristina Junqueira, I hope I prefer it right, for my friend in Brazil, co-founder of Nubank, one of Brazil's largest fintech banks, providing digital financial services to more than 53 million customers. Having 3 daughters, she quoted, "I want my daughters to grow up in a world where they can dream of being whoever they want to be. And you can't dream of what you can't see." So role models are very important. Going back to numbers, 27% of women among student groups say they would consider a career in technology, compared to 61% of males. And at current rates, although today is 22%, they extrapolate that by 2027, women in tech roles will be 21%. So it's a reducing trend. Another important parameter is that more than half of women in tech leave the industry by the midpoint of their careers. Why? Because they believe that they get paid less. Is that true? Yes. Women in tech typically earn around $15,000 less than men. And European women still make 26% less than men in the tech sector. But we should see some good news and the light at the end of the tunnel. The share of women leaders in tech companies worldwide peaked at 14% in 2022, and companies like Facebook, Apple, Microsoft, they have a higher rate of participation in leadership positions held by women, like 37% and 33% respectively. And I want to close my intervention with a message to the esteemed investor community that says that businesses with at least 30% women in leadership positions are likely to be 15% more profitable. In fact, McKinsey analysis shows a tech talent gap of 1.4 million to 3.9 million people by 2027 for EU 27 countries. So if Europe could double the share of women participation in the tech force to about 45%, this could close this gap balance and benefit GDP increase as much as 260 million to 600 billion. Addressing this, we can see much more than addressing the gender gap and do what we call the right thing. We can see an economic opportunity, if not an economic necessity.
Thank you so much for that, Athena. The power of data, we heard it from the Deputy First Minister earlier on, and she rightly said, you have to do something with the data, the story that the data has told us, and also the importance of role models and introducing women to opportunities in tech, because the data says it makes sense, and it makes sense for innovation and for success. Thank you so much for that, Athena. I'm going to jump across the panel to Dr. Raja. And I wonder, as we think about people making choices at age 11, you talked about jumping into STEM and maybe changing mind afterwards. As a trailblazer for women in leadership roles, how did you work towards that? Can you share something of your story?
Well, first, thank you very much for the question. Thank you for having me on this panel. I would like to really hit on 2 points that how did I do it through all these years of experience, thinking of women. What are the differences between women in the West and in the East? Now, we are all women, and we do face all the same challenges. Now, whether you are in the West or in the East, you are a mother, you are a wife, you are a sister, you are, and so on, you know. So the challenges are there. Now, here, I will hit on the GCC and Middle East. Despite low female participation rates in the labor force, women are among the mostly high educated demographic groups in the GCC. According to the 2022 Global Gender Gap report, the Middle East and North Africa region achieved 96.2% gender parity regarding educational accomplishment. UAE, of course, there is an initiative and they have followed it, that whether it is a government or private sector, that women should be on boards in all sectors, whether it is in IT, whether it is in business, whether it is in education. So women are taking their part into that. Now, also there was something called a Gender Balance Council aims to create a nationwide comprehensive strategy to close the economic gender gap, increased, and it has reached to 30% in our place. Now, women in the UAE participate actively in all sectors. Now, look at women in business, for example. We have 32,000 businesswomen running their own business in the private sector, where they run 50 billion dirhams worth of projects that it's owned by them, you know, or maybe they are into partnership with other women. So women have really achieved a lot. Now, challenges are there. But how do we face these challenges? I think this is the most important thing. You can't compare a person with, who faced challenges with a person who did not face challenges. Now, when you face challenges, you change your skills, you upgrade your well-being, you upgrade yourself, you upgrade your thinking. You know exactly where you head. So the outcome of that challenge is very positive. But if you have a person who really have everything, and whatever she asks for, it is there on a plate of gold, that's it, there is no challenge. So how can she grow, a woman? Now, believing in herself, that is the most important thing. The problem that we face as women is that how much can we believe in ourselves to face the challenges in the outside world? Now, the most important thing is that not going around to say, I believe in myself. No, work and show your work, and the people who are with you, working with you, following you, facing you, they will know that you are really believing in yourself. So this is the woman, and of course we have worked very, very hard as Dubai and Dubai Businesswomen Council to change the misperception about the woman in our part of the world, that she's illiterate, uneducated, and so on. And here we are. You can see pilots are women, engineers are women, doctors are women, businesswomen are women, sitting on boards are women. You will see maybe a board full of, in that room, of 25 people, and there is only one woman. So it is a completely different story. The world has changed. The societies have changed. And people do agree that really whatever we were thinking before, it's not on anymore, because they come, seeing is believing. They come to our part of the world and they see the achievements of women and they believe in it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Raja. It's so important that we remember we are all the same. And you talked about education levels, you talked about the roles that women have across societies, and the world has changed, our perceptions need to catch up. You also mentioned challenges and how they shape us. And Barbara, I wonder if I might come to you and ask, could you share some thoughts on historical, societal, or structural barriers that can be challenges within organizations or within public service, and share your thoughts on that, please.
So I come as someone who spent 34 years as an American diplomat, including 3 wonderful years here as the American Consul General in Belfast. And we've been talking here about inclusive economic growth, and given the place where we are, which is Whitla at Queen's University in Belfast, I'd like to make a few remarks about the vital role that women frequently play in ending conflict, because there's arguably no bigger barrier to inclusive growth than having peace and stability. And while men often benefit by amassing wealth and power through force in a state of conflict, women and children almost never do. So they're natural advocates for peace. And women, including so prominently right here in Northern Ireland, showed us the benefits of having women in leadership roles when they became these crucial advocates and builders of peace. And they helped end this conflict and create space for the inclusive economic growth that promised the brighter future that we're all living in now. So that brings me to some core recommendations for women seeking to deliver impact as leaders. And they're going to be a little counterintuitive, so I'm just going to warn you. My first one is this: focus on the outcome, and that is at the expense of your recognition. Focus on the outcome. And that may mean not getting credit for the outcome that you help deliver. And that can, in the short term, feel like abandoning the feminist cause and giving in to societal barriers and pressures and structural barriers. But, for example, if you're just certain that your voice is going to be drowned out by all the men around the table in the White House Situation Room, my advice, just go see some of those men ahead of time. Have a one-on-one. See if you can identify some common ground. Maybe make some alliances, and even, dare I say, ventriloquize them to make your case in that meeting. Here's my most radical one. Even offer to take notes. It is a crowd pleaser. Everyone is so grateful the woman offered to take notes. Now let me tell you, the woman who's holding the pen to write the summary of conclusions of that meeting is holding some power in her hand. So it's a long game, and sometimes playing it a little counterintuitively can really increase your impact.
Thank you so much, Barbara. Very, very wise words. And just of note, I'm holding a pen, and apparently it's very powerful. I'm going to come to Sinead. How does this play out across the worlds of media, journalism, broadcasting, and the world of the content creators?
We all know just how powerful the media can be in shaping people's lives. It has the power to activate certain kinds of behaviours. It shapes our view of things, our perceptions, and that can be a really good thing. Channel 4, the broadcaster I work for, had a drama a couple of years back called It's a Sin, which was about the AIDS epidemic in the 1980s. And as a result of that drama going on air, the amount of men today going for AIDS tests went through the roof. So it can get into your consciousness and make you do something. There's a flip side, of course, as there always is. And a lot of academic research suggests that even in this day and age, the media around us is continuing to promote a gendered society through its portrayal of traditional dominant, what it means to be a man kind of roles, what it means to be a woman. And that is clearly problematic, whether it's intentional or unintentional. Coverage of elections historically shows that female candidates are often asked about the welfare issues, the things that are seen to be more touchy-feely. The male candidates are often quizzed on defence, finance, security. Now, there's an irony in saying that here when we've just heard from the First and Deputy First Minister, and when we now have our first female Chancellor. But all of these things combine to not set the right scene and context, to Athena's point, in terms of role modelling, in terms of young people thinking what their options might be. And a lot of that is because even now, a lot of the key decision makers in our broadcast media are still men. And it's a cock-up, not conspiracy, but you do tend to bring your life experience to the decisions that you make. So it's a vicious cycle, but it's an important context. If we're talking about breaking barriers, we have to see change in the media around us as well.
Thank you so much for that, and also for making us aware of the power of storytelling and the power of voice and who gets to decide what voices are heard. I'd love to come to Claire and the theme today and of this week about partnerships, but we've heard from Athena and Sinead and Dr. Raja and Barbara about allies and building those partnerships. And I wonder if you could share from your work as CEO and founder of Awaken Hub and Awaken Angels, and maybe more broadly on partnerships and allies.
Good morning. In terms of Awaken Hub and Awaken Angels, we are a grassroots community organisation that are set up to support women founders across the island of Ireland. We all ourselves came from entrepreneur background and having our own businesses, and we were dealing with challenges on a daily basis. Just going into boardrooms, even like events like this, roll back 10 years and there was probably never a woman on a panel. And we then collectively thought, how can we make a change in the landscape, and how can we try to do that quickly rather than waiting for policy change and to advocate to governments and try to get it on the agenda. So we set out on a journey during COVID, and we gathered allies, partners, friends, people who saw our shared vision and were welcome to help us to achieve that. So we're lucky now in the sense that we have two communities. We have Awaken Hub, which is a community of women founders. There's around 3,000 women across the island of Ireland who subscribe to that community and are supported and support each other. And just recently, last year, with the support again of our partners, British Business Bank and Intertrade Ireland, we set up the first and only woman-led angel investment syndicate in the island of Ireland in order to invest into women-founded startups. So the power of collaboration and partnership, as we heard from Michelle and Emma this morning, it's the collective. It's how you can use your collective partnerships, allies. We're not feminists. We say we're woman-led, we're not woman-only, and we've got lots of male allies and lots of male partners that have helped us along this journey and continue to do that. But it's how you do that in a larger scale is what we are trying to do now. We really need to, everybody kind of needs to put their shoulder to the wheel and to move that agenda forward. So yeah, partnerships and allies and building collaboration is key to making change in society.
Thank you so much for that, Claire. And you talked very powerfully about larger scale, and you work with entrepreneurs, and it's that upscaling. And I wonder, Raja, could you take us to that larger scale about organisations, how they can ensure the success of their leaders, recognising that diverse experience and individual needs?
Well, I think that we are working towards that. Now look at us as being leaders in business. And what are the challenges that business are facing, family business here, where I want to emphasize on. Now, we did not just stop there and say, it will solve itself. No, the Chamber of Commerce came into the real life of the family business, making a committee who is responsible to study and see with outsiders. It's not only insiders that they in the chambers, that outsiders as auditors, as the big five, and just come and tell us what are they facing in family businesses, so that we can arrange and we can put things together so that when the family business is taking under the process of succession plan, then they are on the right track. Here, where they have made a beautiful program for the youngsters in the family businesses, whether they are boys or girls. Here also I want to point out the gender. They did not say that the boys will come this day and the girls will come this day, because both the boys and the girls are facing the same problem. They might be brothers and sisters in the same family business, that they want to know what is their right and how can they progress in their family business, not to make it die at the end of the game. And here where the outcome was there, I was fascinated because I am heading that program. I was fascinated with the new generation who had come to attend the program of really encouraging them and putting them in the loop of how to succeed in taking your business from A to B without any problems. This is one thing. Number two is leadership is not only for anybody just, yes, I am a professor in, for example, literature, or I am a professor in this. Come and look, and I am a doctor, I am a lawyer, I am an engineer. No, come and look at the women. I was amazed. 2 years ago, I was looking at one of the programs, and here is a lady or a girl. She's of 28 to 30 years old, you know. And she has opened a garage for herself to, work on cars, that they have faults in cars. And here, everybody was surprised. A woman working in a garage with her own hands. It's not that she's having somebody to do the dirty work for her, you know. But she is working with her own hands under the car, with the machines and on. What do you see? You see here the leadership. The leadership of who? Of the country that we are living in. The president of UAE did not hesitate for 1 second to pick the phone and call her and say, I have seen your program and I'm really amazed. How are you doing that as a woman in our part of the world? She said, well, I love to work with machines and this is my passion. So here where leadership is not only to be educated in academically. Leadership is in different ways that you can lead. For example, I'll give an example. I have nothing to do with medicine. I have nothing to do at all with medicine. You know, I am an English literature teacher, I was, you know, and then I became a business lady. But when I was injected into this program of really working in Dubai Healthcare City and working with, it came out automatically that I wanted to learn this, I wanted to learn that, I wanted to see what can we add, what values can we add to our programs in education and medicine and so on. And this is how we came to create the interaction between Queen's University and the Mohammed bin Rashid University for Medicine and Health. You know, so that gives me, oh, good. That means that you have to only to educate yourself. Here where the woman and the belief in herself comes.
I love that.
Yeah, you believe in yourself, you can do it. You don't believe in yourself, but you have to be on the right track.
Yes.
And you have to say whether you can do it or you cannot do it. And not to show yourself as a hero, you can do it, and then there is no output there. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. The leadership in the garage, leadership in the workshop, and leadership across all of our organisations or the family business. Thank you for taking us back to the family business. Sinead, I wonder, could you share some of the initiatives that you've been overseeing through significant change in Channel 4 and some of the ideas that have had that impact and made the difference that Raja has pointed to?
So the prize for us is if we have a diverse workforce behind the scenes, what we put out on screen should be more reflective of our audience and their lives in the UK as a whole. We actively work to tackle the gender pay gap, which sadly still exists in most, if not all, organisations. We're very focused on looking at our top 100 best paid employees and the gender split there, and through different interventions in the past few years, I'm now happy to say that that's at 55 women to the 45 men, but it requires interventions and it requires work. It doesn't benefit anybody if you promote someone simply on the basis of their gender so that your end of year reporting looks better. It sets everything back. So we have a range of things to it's to that self-belief point, to encourage women to progress their careers within our organisation. Bespoke coaching, really helping someone pick their career back up if they have been out for maternity leave, making them feel re-inspired at that point, that does not put a pause on their progression. And then general policies like a menopause policy, a period policy, a pregnancy loss policy, opportunities for conversations to be had in the open, to present yourself in a work environment as a fully rounded person, not just somebody who is a resource for a company. And then policies that also are about all employees. Shared parental leave, I think, has been a game changer because it starts to shatter the stereotype that if a baby is born into a family, it's automatically the woman who's going to be off for an elongated period of time. And we're very lucky we have a female CEO. So that role modelling piece that we've heard repeatedly about is lived and breathed within our organisation, and it makes a huge difference.
Thank you so much for that and for reminding us about the progressive policies and talking about things in the open that were taboo only a few years ago. Well, we've pulled up the carpet. Nothing gets under the carpet anymore, and it is making that difference that you've said. Athena, I was reflecting on times of change, and one of the other panellists mentioned COVID and the pandemic, but I'm also thinking about roles change, organisations restructure and so on, and for good reason and for good impact. But there's a journey towards that. And with your experience in turnaround and change management and capacity building, are there lessons how women leaders have been ensuring positive change during uncertainties?
Happy to share experiences, but there is a difference, a very important difference. We as generations were the initiators of change. The dilemma now is what new skills with humans needs to bring to this era of AI, where change is unplanned and constant. So it's not, we don't initiate change happens outside of us. So I will not speak about education and academic skills because I believe they have been exhaustively described. I believe that we should clearly address some personal attributes that shape what we call the character of 21st century female leadership. And I will categorize them into groups. First group is the autonomy construct, second is the competence construct, and third, the relatedness construct. What I call autonomy construct is the decision making that is characterized by resilience and flexibility, goals, adaptability, and as we've heard already, the more adaptable, the more clever. I would stress that we should, as female professionals, rigorously set not only professional, but also personal goals. Setting personal goals is closely linked to the sense of autonomy that drives both personal and professional success, which is important, satisfaction. And third, that is very important, is ensure a supportive environment, including family support, friend support, professional support. The second one is the competence construct. It doesn't rely on us completely, but we should carefully select our working environment because the sense of competence is very close tied to the achievement and success. So it's a loop and includes personal fulfillment, professional accomplishment, and financial stability. Also seeking for feedback and recognition. And what I constantly repeat is seek for mentoring. This is the key that unlocks the professional growth. It's more important than anything else. Now, the relatedness construct includes relationships, includes belonging to a working environment, teamwork, and collaboration. And I want to close with some leadership traits that are needed to excel in today's uncertain environment. Positive energy, personal balance, continuous learning, humble mindset, resilience, stewardship, and leading by example. And I will close my remarks with the need of levity. It's important to bring humor to the conversations. Moments of humor can help teams bonding, can help high-stress situations, and will unlock creativity of the full group. Thanks.
Thank you for reminding us of the importance of resilience and humour. There's a partnership that all of us absolutely need. Barbara, Accessing leadership positions. We have very, very many talented, highly educated, ambitious young women. How can they access leadership positions, and what can we do to make that happen?
You know, I want to reflect a little bit, and Athena and I talked about this in the green room, about how unwelcoming the workplace was in some of these roles when I started my career. 12-hour days were really expected, and often weekend work. And if you were a mom, and I was, it was easy to feel profoundly unsupported and just torn between two really vitally important roles. Over the course of my work life, I have seen that get better as we've humanized the workplace and created more flexibility, and even just adequate staffing to get the job done. So these things that we do to humanize the workplace so people can fulfill their life obligations, family obligations, in that wonderful way you put it, Sinead, be the whole person. These things just make our societies better, our families better, all kinds of outcomes better. Some really specific tips about how do we create pathways for women up. It isn't enough to just hire at entry level. I'm just going to get that out there now. You've got to actually take steps along the way. And so some of these are controversial, but and they have downsides. But one of them is a practice the State Department instituted of shortlists for key positions. They put in a requirement that a woman had to be on the list, no more all-male lists. Now, because that is how I broke the glass ceiling and was the first woman to become minister at the U.S. Embassy in London. That's the deputy ambassador slot there. It's a phenomenal job. I was just the most plausible woman you could put on the list, and they were just going to go through the motions of interviewing me. But I got the job. It was great. I got a Distinguished Honor Award for it, so it was wonderful. Loads of women have come after me since then, so those can work. The downside, I cannot tell you how much time I wasted being considered, and I wasn't being considered, for roles, and the only reason I was preparing for this interview and polishing this resume was so that they could have a woman on the short list. So there are downsides to that approach, and it can feed the idea that it was kind of an affirmative action thing and you didn't deserve it. So here's my last one, and I don't know a downside to this one. We know the data on this is crystal clear that women are much less likely to put themselves forward for a leadership position than men are. So one of the things you can do, and you can do this even in the public sector, is have leaders reach out and say, Athena, we have a key job. You have these attributes. We think you can help the enterprise succeed. Do not say, Athena, we need a woman on the list. Can you be a sport? But you can ask women to please step forward. It is fundamentally different as a woman to go around explaining why you were bold enough to put your name on that list for a job no woman has ever held, if you can say, well, I was asked and they said they needed me. It makes all the difference in the world. So if you're in the position to do that, I really encourage you to, because that is how you will diversify your leadership.
That's a really important takeaway. Thank you for that, Barbara. I'm going to come back to Claire, and I'm aware this massive screen in front of me that you can't see says we have about 5 minutes left, and time moves quickly. But Claire, I'd love to hear if you could share any personal or professional milestones on your journey and any learning as we build the future cohort of women.
Yeah, and I mean, it goes back to leadership and roles, and you cannot be what you can't see. I mean, luckily, I'm a Young Enterprise alumni, and I say that has spurred me on my journey. So anybody who's going for coffee later, call over to Young Enterprise, and they're also looking for business backers as well. So if you have a bit of money that you can put towards the charity to help them do their mission, that would be useful as well. But in terms then of in the journey, it's been very male-dominated. So you know, as a graduate, and when you're in business, you're around the table, and you're usually the only woman at the table, and you're the only voice in the room that differs from what's been said. Again, how I challenged that was to work with friends. To set up, as I said, the Awaken Hub and Awaken Angels, and how we can try to change the future for the upcoming woman, that they don't have the same journey that we had. And we do that through, you know, we talked about the investment piece and the investment landscape, and also in the business landscape. So if you've got more women in leadership roles, you've got more women giving back, you've got more investment going into women-founded startups. The young generation coming up, they see the role models, they see all that happening, so they themselves can take on those positions and think that it's something that they can do.
That's fantastic, and we are always role models to someone who is watching us, and conduct and sharing is just so important. If I can go back, Sinead, to a point that you talked about with our whole selves, and I wonder if you could just give even one tip on the juggle, struggle, the balancing act of balancing life and self and carrying responsibilities, or any of the things in our lives as well as work. Have you got a tip for us?
But I mean, it's that open communication. It's kind of like everything, particularly the stuff that Barbara's talked about. It's, if you are a leader, be open about your own challenges insofar as you're comfortable being. Humanize yourself, and you know, it's that thought about. I think a leader's key role is to provide the circumstances to let the people on their team deliver their best work. So whatever it takes to do that, there's no losers in that scenario.
Thank you so much for that. And I wanted to ask Athena, we've missed out really on the idea of culture. Can you give us in one sentence how it's changed, and are we done?
We're not done. It has changed. The new parameter is encouraging innovation. And in order to encourage innovation, you should take off the table the factor fear. So what was good in the States for many decades was the parameter of being allowed to fail. So this is what needs to be embraced. We are allowed to fail as cultures, and a corporate culture that does not allow failure is prescribed to die. And that's one thing. The second is that we should address the covered, unbiased distinction for women, as very well described here. We're very often used as rabbits on short lists, you know, ticking the box, having 1-2 women just for the quota, which is also important. And the third is that we should progress further into giving rewards to the one that succeed, not to mention speed of execution. Speed of execution is needed more than ever. Things change at a faster pace than we expect. In the past, leadership was meaning that I'm going in front and everyone follows. Now, all things are ahead of us, and most of the times we react. We don't proactively address them.
And these are things which are within our gift and within our control, and a culture that allows us to fail and then be successful and own that success is where we are. As we come to the last few seconds, I wonder if we could have a comment from Barbara and from Raja on what needs to happen looking forward.
You know, the work isn't done. You shared with me, Karen, that it's 33% of the senior professors are now women at Queen's after a significant improvement in that number. The CIA and the State Department got to write about that figure, and then they just got stuck there. And it's less in tech. So it doesn't just happen on its own. It is really getting held there. My daughter, who works for Foreign Policy Magazine and does the Her Power Summit every year, and that's a great, Her Power Index is a great place to go for statistics on it. Women resign from national security jobs still 30% more often than men do. So there's still a very significant attrition for some of the reasons that we've pointed out. I'm in higher ed now, though, and I'm also the mother of a son. And I just want to put one more thought out there. At my elite public university, we struggle to have that entering class be 40% male. There are flashing red lights on that dashboard about the space for our boys now. So I don't want us to forget that either, because a truly inclusive economy is going to have space for everybody. And we've made a lot of progress, women. a lot of us are moms of sons, and we need to make sure that our sons are going to do okay too. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Barbara. And true inclusion, it resonates with everyone. Final comment from Dr. Raja.
Well, I think my colleagues have touched on mostly too many things, leadership, empowering women and all. And I would like to say that I have worked with State Department from Vital Voices on this program from 2002 and 2002, that means, up to before the COVID. And we have gone through so many programs to encourage us to take our place in the society, to take our place in the managerial posts and all. It really gave me a lot of good ideas that I followed up in my life, where being specific, believing in myself and going ahead with this, and believing also in the new generation that is going to come for the family business, where of course their needs are completely different than our needs, and here where we have to draw the line. Now, you don't have to boss them all the time, you have to make them take their time to put the policy that they want, and we will organize it for them with outsiders who will consult them how to do it, and then we will ask them to go ahead in their life. So it is give and take. And that's all I can say, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That give and take piece is just so important. This has been a fast 40 minutes. Thank you for sharing it with us. And we need to most sincerely thank our panel, Athena, Barbara, Sinead, Claire and Dr. Raja, for sharing how they've broken barriers and how they're helping others, how they've created new paths to success, not just for themselves but for everyone coming behind, and they're empowering the future leaders and the future innovators. Please join me in thanking our panel. And I'd like to thank you for your generosity and for your attention. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Karen, and to our five guests. Personally, I've found so much of that inspiring. I am the son of a woman who worked, a single woman who worked 6 nights a week. I have 2 daughters. Both grown up, both trying to make their way in the world. And indeed, my last boss at NBC News was the first female president of a US television network, Deborah Turness, a truly inspiring woman she was and still is. So thank you so much for those insights, and to Barbara for that extraordinary insight about holding the pen. Which I will try and remember. Right, straight to our next panel. We've headlined this Innovating Social Change. How do we do it? What are the risks? What are the rewards of great social change for all of us? And what role can we play in driving innovation? Well, for this discussion, the focus will be on how ordinary people, the community, the voluntary sector, for example, non-profit organizations and so on, how they see innovation. What do communities gain by change, and what might they lose? What is the social value of great upheaval, and how do organizations collaborate to the benefit of everyone? Well, this panel will be moderated by Professor Catherine Higgins, who is the Director of Queen's Communities and Place. And she will be joined by panelists from Northern Ireland. I would invite them all to come onto the stage now. Succeeding Professor Catherine Higgins is David Linton, the founder and CEO of the award-winning bag and backpack company Madlug, which stands for Making a Difference Luggage. Celine McStravick, the CEO of the Northern Ireland Council for Voluntary Action, which represents the entire voluntary and community sector here and has been around since 1938. And Jonathan McAlpin, the Vice Chair and CEO of East Belfast Enterprise, which helps train, advise and support small businesses. Welcome, Catherine, over to you.
Thank you very much indeed, Bill, and absolutely delighted to be here with you this afternoon in the Whitla Hall. The theme of the overall GIS event today is about the power of partnership, and no better session, I believe, to demonstrate that whole partnership piece than the folk we have on the stage with us today. Over the next 45 minutes, we'll hear from Celine, Dave and Jonathan, drawing on their very impressive collective experiences, and I've been asked not to mention exactly how many years' experience each of them has. By way of context, our civil society encompasses the community and voluntary sector, social enterprises, and other non-governmental, not-for-profit organisations, and all of these play a very important part of our innovation ecosystem. This varied sector approaches innovation with its very own USP, with a strong focus, as Bill noted, on social value and work that is very clearly enhanced by close ties with the community and its willingness to collaborate across sectors, as well as, importantly, to experiment with new ideas. Through all of this work, we're mindful of the need to empower marginalised individuals and communities to participate in shaping this innovation. And unfortunately, at the moment, the voice of working class communities is all too often excluded from fast-moving innovation processes. For our part within Queen's Communities in Place, or QCAP within Queen's, we are developing a joint approach to innovation between the QCAP team here in the university and the innovation team at Belfast City Council to really maximise the local economic and societal impact of major investments in the city, such as our well-known Belfast Region City deal. Our model also importantly emphasises multi-sectoral collaboration, integrating efforts from local communities, academia, policymakers and industry stakeholders, and of course the partners like those that are sitting beside me on the stage here today. We are all acutely aware of the very, very real challenges related to funding and sustainability. And despite this, this sector holds really very dear its ability to leverage meaningful partnership and find very creative solutions. Importantly, also co-created solutions to some of society's most complex challenges. So over the next 45 minutes, we'll hear from a really experienced panel on important challenges, and also opportunities which are important then across the sector. So the first question I'll address to you, Celine. How, in your view, do community and voluntary organisations, including our social enterprises, uniquely drive innovation in ways that for-profit entities or governments just don't, or actually maybe can't?
Thank you, Catherine, and lovely to be part of today's panel. And it's really interesting when I was listening to speakers this morning talking about innovation. And often our temptation is to think that to innovate is the next new piece of technology, our use of data, or something that is hugely expensive that we all have to invent. But I'm very happy to say that our voluntary and community sector are innovative every single day, because we use really creative solutions to solve complex social problems. In fact, it's actually our bread and butter. We wouldn't exist without innovation. An interesting example is COVID, where overnight our sector had to quickly pivot, change what they were doing. Food banks were established by some charities. Mental health support went online, while our government officials we're talking about how policies could change and what processes needed to look like. Our sector had no time for that. We had to just quickly get on with it. So it was really innovation in action. We couldn't stop and see the social problems and ruminate and think about it. We had to move quickly. So it is part and parcel of what our sector does. And in Northern Ireland, we have over 50,000 people employed in this sector, over 7,000 different organisations. But interestingly, innovation also comes from the volunteers. We have over 230,000 volunteers in our sector. either working on governance or providing support, right from working with our young people, working in the environment, healthcare, women's sector. There's not a single bit of society in Northern Ireland that does not have the volunteering community sector. So when we think innovation, we think, well, that's our day job. So what else do you want us to do next?
Thank you very much, Celine. And I couldn't agree more that COVID really showcased the immense innovation that happened within our community and voluntary sector. Turning to you, Dave, what role do you see technology, and maybe even as Celine has alluded to, that sort of digital approach to innovation, how do you see that playing in the future of social innovation in particular?
I believe it's key. 10 years ago, I was a youth worker in the pure charity space and met a problem of children and young people carrying bin bags for their belongings, to carry their belongings, and thought I need to do something about it. I got an idea. I could do business, social enterprise, generate profit, out of profit do something that could supply bags to kids. Technology at that point enabled the way, because if I'd have been 5 years, 10 years before that, I would have had to get probably about £100,000 of money to try out an idea of an online business. Because of technology and the growth of technology, £25 a month subscription. And I was able to take an idea, I was able to take a product, and I was able to test that product to the point where we've helped over 112,000 children today across the UK, equivalent to about 1.2 million, without taking grants, funding, by generating business using social enterprise. So technology for me is key. In the day-to-day now, we have some great technology giants who are really partner with charities and social enterprises in providing reduced costs, platforms that we can become more efficient and effective at our delivery. And as a result, people's lives are being changed as a result of that technology. So my real call is technology needs to engage with the social. We can bring added value through the social impact part that we all want to have. We can bring that when you bring your technologies, and together technology really does change the world.
And did you find that the technology sector were quite willing to work with you, or did you have any challenges in engaging them along the way?
There's been no issue of technology companies. I mean, you just have to go onto some of the big brands, and they all have, like, you know, most of our charities are running on Microsoft. They give you free service to be able to run so much. So there's that. But let's be honest, technology has dark sides to it, and they need social enterprises and charities. You know, the dark side of technology is the environmental questions that are around. So to kind of work to bring the good out of the stuff that's helping us that potentially could be bad, we need partnerships to bring and change lives as a result of that.
Yeah, so that partnership approach, very important from both sides of the coin. Turning to you, way down there, Jonathan, and thinking about this whole idea of partnerships, how do you think BCSE organisations collaborate with businesses and government to really drive that meaningful innovation? And perhaps importantly, as Celine was highlighting there, that innovation at pace.
Thanks, Catherine. Yes, I mean, I suppose one of the things I would agree with what Celine was saying earlier about our sector and the innovation that's rife within our sector. And, you know, there's that known phrase that we hear about necessity is the mother of invention. And that's what drives innovation. And there's no doubt that our sector is continually working with those that are most in need. And our sector itself is very much in need, and that's what drives innovation. But unfortunately, often the innovation is for survival rather than for the purpose that we really need, which is to improve services and to really have impact on people's lives. I think there was a speaker earlier on today talked about innovation works best at the intersection. And I think that's true. And when we talk about the intersection, I guess what we're talking about is the intersection between our sector, government and business. But to make that work and make that work well, we need to have clear shared objectives. It needs to be that everybody is innovating for the right reason and to try to ultimately achieve the right goal. And it also needs to make sure that the outputs is where the focus is, rather than managing each other within that process. I think that if we're going to innovate effectively and impactfully, we have to do it as a collection of equals. I think that there is no one sector which dominates another. I think we have to be around the table looking at each other and the value that we bring, the expertise we bring, and make sure that we do value that genuinely. I think that, and in the introduction I was introduced as CEO of East Belfast Enterprise, which is correct. Also mentioned as Vice Chair, actually Vice Chair of CO3. And CO3 is an organisation which is all about leadership, and leadership is so critically important in this. I know, speaking on behalf of CO3 and the leaders up here in our panel, we are absolutely ready and up for innovation. We do it every day. And I have no doubt that leaders in the other sectors are likewise. We just need to be able to bring that around the table together. And the way to do that is do that through co-design. Now, there is, when we talk about co-design, and that's mentioned often, we have to be genuine about that and real about that, and go back to the comment I made earlier about shared objectives. Start with that and make sure that what we're trying to do is design interventions that are going to meet the needs of the collaborators. Unfortunately, too often, those programs are designed with maybe one or two of the collaborators, but not all in mind.
Can you maybe just, and I'm perhaps putting you a little on the spot, can you talk us through maybe an example that you think worked really well in that context, to just sort of bring the story to life a little bit?
Yeah, well, you know, I suppose there's in another role of a board role with the Orchardville Society, which is an organisation that works with people with learning disability. And in the Orchardville Society, they're continually innovating and trying new things and progressing opportunities for their service users. And one of those that worked very well for a number of years was with Coca-Cola and Coca-Cola bottling. And it was engaging people with learning disabilities to do repetitive tasks, which perhaps people with different abilities wouldn't be so comfortable doing, but where the people with the learning disability were very skilled and very able at providing this task, and something that was very much engaging in what they did. And what you do there is you bring people who sadly, historically, might have been left at the margins of society right into the core of society, doing a really valuable job. And for Coca-Cola, taking out a bit of a cost line for them, if you like, and helping them drive efficiency in their processes.
Yeah. Well, it's a good real-life example, which is super helpful. Back to you, Dave, and again, perhaps drawing on some of your direct experience, how do you think social enterprises leverage partnerships with public and private sectors to both stand up and then scale their innovation? But how do they actually, how do you get below the bonnet to do that?
It's a really good question. I feel social enterprises need private and they need the public. I think sometimes the route we see it is we're direct to public, but I feel that sometimes that requires a size that often social enterprises aren't at, including our own. So private is the kind of in-between, where private are tendering, they're putting in for the bigger contracts, the partnership opportunities. That changes social enterprise. The impact of that, the outcome of that is phenomenal. But there's a couple of things in partnerships is that we need to be of a level to deliver. And we sometimes come at a place, I think we're guilty of a place where we put our story as the premium. That allows a second level kind of delivery. And I think if we're going to get to a place
What do you mean by that? Can you explain that?
Well, it's we look for the partnership on the basis of, this is nice to work with you, rather than the product and service sometimes that we have. And it's not that we're not doing good jobs, it's just being realistic to the scale that we need to deliver on that. So if I'm going to sell bags into the UK, into their civil service, for instance, through a private company who's got that contract, that private company needs a delivery partner to be able to deliver bags. There needs to be quality, it needs to be cost effective, it needs to be all of the stuff. Then the social enterprise part for me is, it's the added value. But But sometimes I think we start on a place where we don't work on the product enough or the service enough, and then we come, well, work with us because we have a nice story. So I think partnerships have to be, we've got to take ourselves serious, we've got to compete in a real market. And I'm talking about social enterprises probably more than the charity space here, that we are delivering a product. So for me, I want to be the best bag company in the world. I want to be the leading bag company in the UK for socially conscious consumers and corporates. That requires great product, on-time delivery, right pricing, and then the added value that brings the kind of kick to the sauce in many ways is the story, the impact that your purchase and working with me can actually deliver. So that's my day-to-day, make Madlug the best company so that I can deliver. So partnerships aren't something that we're entitled to. We're not the beggar in it. We bring value, we work with, and we work as colleagues as we collaborate together. And so advice in the social enterprise space, I believe doing that is be the best, not just the best. Know your difference, which is the social value you bring, and that's the real magic, and that's whenever we can scale and actually not be just talking about what ifs, but actually we can be at the table, and that's what I'm finding.
And that's a great success story you have, and that you managed to achieve that. But the point you're making is it's not enough to have a good story. It's important to actually tackle all aspects of that delivery.
Absolutely. You'll get one sale on a story. So I sell a bag to a consumer, they'll buy it on a story, but they'll not come by and buy a second bag if the quality's not right, if the price isn't right. And you'll get one contract because it's a nice thing to do and it adds the value in their social value reporting and so forth. But they'll not come back again because they've done it. So they come back because you provide the service, the products, the delivery. That's the key.
Sure. And one of the things you said to me just on the way up the stairs was sometimes the value of events like this expose your work to audiences that perhaps wouldn't hitherto perhaps know about you, and you reflected on your experience in Edinburgh. Do you want to just say just a little bit about how that worked so well?
Yeah, so I just love sharing the story. I love to share the story for one reason, is I want to tell everybody in the world that every care experience young person is incredible, and I'll use our platform to do that. So we celebrate care experience children, young people who are unseen, lost in a society, and the business world needs it. So I'm using the business world to tell stuff like this. So number one. Two is I would love to invite you into this story. You can be part of it if you purchase bags, then come and buy Madlug bags. We will give you great products, right pricing, and we will deliver value that no other bag company can deliver. So come talk to me, yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
So turning back to Celine here on my right. Okay, so we all know without question that there are so many challenges out there facing our collective sector in terms of their ability to sustain the much needed innovation efforts. So how do you think we can overcome those challenges? Perhaps providing a few recent or wherever you can muster them from, examples in real life of things that you felt really tell that story.
Thanks, Cathy. And I suppose I'll reflect again on what our Deputy First Minister said this morning when she said that often, at the moment, democracies are being held to account for not delivering. And when I look at our sector, we are held to account for tiny bits of money that are unsustainable and given for small pilots, whilst we are really trying to, let's face it, change outcomes for citizens. So we have these huge ambitions, but we are restricted and we have limitations on what we can deliver as a result of that income stream. So our First Minister talked also about innovation not having limitations. And when she said that, I just thought, that's one of the struggles, isn't it, of our sector, that we have so many ideas, so many things that we can see issues with. We're working on the ground, and yet what's holding us back often is the income. So I see our sector increasingly changing that relationship with income, not looking for the grants, but looking for how we can diversify, how we can build our own community wealth, how we can change our capital assets to create income, whether it's social enterprises. You know, we have some fantastic examples where, for example, Women's Tech are now selling the training that they delivered, you know, to women out there, how to, you know, do your own DIY, fix your car, etc. So providing skills to women, but charging for it, so having a different income stream that removes them from those shackles of waiting on the next grant. You know, we also see examples where Resurgam in Lisburn have set up their own gym, have their own enterprise units, whilst they're using that money then to fund their youth work, their drug rehabilitation work, etc. So you're not losing sight of your mission, but what you're doing is saying, we want to innovate. We can no longer be limited by statutory funding or funders who don't move quick enough, don't see the long-term vision. So we have to create our own future. Increasingly that's happening. I'd like to see it happening even faster if we could, but also I'd like to see funders catch up with us and realise that their adherence to risk and monitoring is actually stopping that real innovation.
And Celine, have you any suggestions for how they could do that?
There's a fantastic example in Northern Ireland where the arts and culture community came together and realised that the actual whole sector was in threat because people weren't spending money. They couldn't go out to the theatres anymore. They couldn't, and individual artists were really suffering. As a result, our lottery fund here worked with those artists and developed a new way of funding called the Blueprint. That Blueprint wasn't about, we will give you X amount of pounds to do X. It was, what could you do with this money that would then create a sustainable income stream in the future? So it actually encouraged them to be brave. It gave them some of that thinking space to sit down and say, okay, this is unrestricted funding for a few years. How can we flip that conversation and build the strength? Blueprint is now in its second term, and there's over 15 organisations that have really benefited from that, and there's huge learning on behalf of the funders to say sometimes risk is necessary, but also on behalf of our sector to say we need to come with the solutions on what we would do if the money was unrestricted.
And I think given those examples like Blueprint, perhaps then for funders, gives them a template that they could work for to try and broaden some of this out, and perhaps the learning from that needs pushed out a little more.
Absolutely, and you know, Jonathan used the word respect, and us all being seen as equal partners. I think that's the basis of any good partnership. You start with respect and you build that collaboration and you realise that everyone is bringing something useful to the table. Where things go wrong is where it's felt like you're being done onto and someone's doing you a favour and the partnership will quickly break down.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Okay, Jonathan, next one's for you. How, in your view, does funding, which is a nice follow-on from Celine's points, how does funding impact the ability of not-for-profits to innovate? Now, Celine's given some examples of how kind of people got round that, but in your view, what's the nuts and bolts of the problem here?
Yeah, and funding's a challenge, and I think we need to understand funding as well, because we talk about funding, and when we talk about funding in the community voluntary sector or the social enterprise sector, our minds immediately jump to grants and to begging bowls and to master-servant relationships. If we talk about funding in the private sector, we think about contracts, we think about investment, we think about investing for growth and investing in innovation. I don't understand why mentally we have these challenges.
Sure.
Most of the funding that I am aware of in the third sector is contracted. It's contract funding. In the organisation I work in, we work under contracts, so it's unrestricted funding, if you like to call it that. But the contracts are undervalued. What we cannot do is we cannot bid for. Now, there's fault on many sides here. We maybe need to learn from the private sector and have more confidence in levels at which we bid and understanding how to price our value in the services that we give. But we also need understanding from those that are awarding contracts that contracts need to be priced at a point that allows the organisations that are delivering the contracts full cost recovery, and by that I mean they need to be able to properly pay their staff, the people who are delivering the frontline services, which includes pensions, which includes healthcare, which includes all the other benefits that every other sector gets. We need to be able to invest in those people, because if we can't invest in those people, we cannot attract nor retain talent, and it's a talent that we need to be able to deliver high-level services. And these services we're delivering are services for the benefit of society. These are the services which are going to benefit the private sector, because it's going to allow the private sector to partner with us to be able to secure contracts, to be able to generate profitability. We're able to deliver services which are going to benefit the public sector, because we're going to deliver better value public services, which is what the whole purpose of the public sector is about. And ultimately, we need also within the funding contractual relationship a trust. And that trust is about trusting us to deliver the service that you're paying us to deliver in the same way as you would with any other sector. So please stop marking the homework and start trusting that we're going to deliver outputs, we're going to deliver outcomes, and challenge us and evaluate us on that. But please don't give us a contract and then tell us how to deliver it. That's what I would call for very much. And the last thing I would say too is, you know, within pricing, within these contracts, we need to understand that there will be mistakes, there will be failures. Joe Kennedy mentioned earlier on about Harry Ferguson, and we can come out with lots of other amazing innovations that came out of this little part of the world. Air conditioning, who knew that air conditioning was first in Royal Victoria Hospital, and so on and so forth. I have no doubt Harry Ferguson made many, many mistakes before he ultimately found the solution for the Massey Ferguson. I have no doubt that the Wright brothers crashed many times and had bruises and cuts to show for it before they actually took off and flew for a period of time. We have to be able to make mistakes. That has to be priced into the model. We have to understand that at times things won't work, but that's got to be priced into the model. We cannot always be priced into something which requires 100% delivery. And the last thing I'll say, if I can say it, is we do talk about sectors, and I've talked about private sector, public sector, social enterprise, voluntary sector. We're just society.
Sure.
We are all those sectors. I run a social enterprise. My board comprises about 2/3 of it are people working in the private sector. When they're on my board, they're in the third sector.
I understand.
I also have public sector people employed, working on my board. When they're on my board, they're in the third sector. We are interrelational, we're interdependent. We need to understand that and bring that through into how we run and deliver contracts.
And that's, I suppose, you know, how you design proper partnership. So to go back to your point there, do you feel as if the third sector, or for lack of a better word, the third sector, is held to higher scrutiny than what a public service would be? Because I'm pretty sure they also fail quite a lot.
Yeah, I think you probably know what I'm going to say here, but I do, and I've direct experience of it. Because what I have seen, and just a microcosm of the organisation that I run, I have seen within the last decade that we have reduced significantly frontline staff because we simply cannot afford to engage or to employ and keep those frontline staff in post. But what I've seen is I've seen an increase in the administrative level, if you want to call it that, where we are required to report, and the level of reporting has increased significantly. So what I'm seeing is smaller numbers of frontline staff also delivering smaller chunks of time in the service because more time's been absorbed in reporting. And that model is all wrong. We can change it, and we can change it through proper and genuine co-design, which brings in the frontline deliverers into part of that co-design service, and we look at the needs of all partners, as I said previously. But at the moment, yes, I think that the level of accountability is way too high. I mentioned marking homeworks, please.
Sure.
We need
and
to get away from
have you any examples of where you're trying to change that as an organisation?
Yeah. Okay.
And just you know, hit us with it. Don't be trying to.
So another role that I have, I guess, is I'm also at the moment chair of Enterprise Northern Ireland. And Enterprise Northern Ireland is the key organisation that delivers support for entrepreneurs and SMEs. One of the key products within that support is the Go Succeed programme, which people maybe have heard of, and which is delivering services at the moment. We know that there's a lot of challenges within that service. We know from the frontline experience what those challenges are. So what we're calling for right now is for a co-design process with all the key stakeholders that are in the economic development world to just look at what is good in that current service and what could be improved, and let's get around the table and do that. Now, we've spoken to the Minister about that. He has agreed. He's endorsed that. He said, let's get it done. But we're still finding difficulty actually getting the people around the table to get it done.
Okay. And is that just diaries, or is it a sort of reticence?
You don't quite know what it is, but I suspect it's a bit more than diaries.
Okay. Well, and that's important. One, yet more challenge. So I suppose for the last chunk of the session, taking all of what we've said together, I suppose I wondered if just in about 3 minutes each, if we've got a little bit of time each, if you could just summarise and really drawing on all the points we've already made, talk about how you think we can figure out really how to balance this constant challenge of financial sustainability and social impact, and how then, you know, again summarising how that really then contributes to social innovation. So Celine, you had talked about how actually innovations are bread and butter, and you talked about how necessity is the mother of invention. That being said, how do we balance this tricky situation as we move forward to try and deliver effective services?
I think what I would suggest is that we take a step back and try to understand what are the problems that we're trying to solve, and then who's best placed to solve those. We have a tendency, of course, it's human nature just to keep on doing what we're doing, expecting different results, hoping for the best, adding on some maybe short-term different approaches to the left or the right, and then wondering 5 years later why we still have those really systemic issues in society. You know, at the minute in Northern Ireland we have the highest levels of economic inactivity across the UK, and yet the sector that's working with those people furthest from the labour market are the voluntary and community sector. We see the issues every single day. We're really aware of how to solve that problem. And actually what we need then is that kind of respect and trust to get into that co-design process and start having some long-term vision and a bit of ambition. I was at a workshop last week, and again it was one of those ones we've all been at them, about a public sector policy. And I was trying not to have a cynical head on, and I just thought, are we going to be sitting here in a few years' time having the same conversation? Will we actually be able to reflect on anything being different? And in a way, the subject, when we're talking about financial stability and more money being needed, it seems a bit like a broken record. Because I'm not sure if tomorrow we got the extra 50 billion, whatever we needed, that anything would change. I think things change when money is tight and when you have to think differently. And I think we use the opportunity that we have at the moment when we are looking very closely at budgets to talk about value for money, not just for our sector, but for our public sector. Where is the money going and what are we getting for it? So that's where I would kind of shift the emphasis, not from financial instability in our sector, but more, where's the problems I want to solve and how do we best use the money that we have and put it in the hands of people who know what they're doing.
So across the whole ecosystem?
100%, 100%. These silos between sectors are completely and utterly artificial. They make no sense only to accountants who want to follow the money. But when they reach the ground, the citizen doesn't care. Is this statutory? Is this voluntary? They want to know, are you delivering the best thing for me and for my family, for what I need? and that's all that matters.
For sure. And the same question perhaps coming to you next, Dave, because you're sitting beside me.
Yeah, so I would agree that sometimes the biggest killer of innovation is too much money. I always tell the story. I started Madlug with £500. We've never taken investment, and we've just reinvested profits over the 10 years or 9 years we've been going. And I always tell a story of an organisation that had £500,000 of funding to create a social enterprise, and we had £500. And I wish at that time I had £500,000 of funding, but I can tell you I wouldn't be sitting here today if I had had that, because I would have gone to the wrong place. I would have had too big of an overhead of too much stock, the learning that was required for the idea, the innovative idea to do that it would have killed me. I'd have been on a discount brand from day one, which never builds a brand and adds any value. And I think when you're looking at this space together, is that the real key isn't the money, the key is the why. I call it the black bin bag story. So what's our black bin bag story? The story within the story. And too often we're too broad. And then what happens when you're too broad? You become a competitor rather than a player on the pitch, a colleague. And that's the biggest killer, I think. So what I think happens in our society now is that we play each other off each other. So we all start to maybe sit in things like this or go to places, but we're all kind of competitors because we're all tendering for the same stuff. We're so desperate to survive that what happens is we'll do that piece of work there that's not necessarily our black bin bag store or why. And that's what kills innovation. So you need money. You need money to compete. We need to be sustainable. So it's far easier for us to say children in care. I need to have a profitable business. The difference is between us and a private is that our profits are locked and assets are locked to the why, the black bin bag story. And but that makes no difference on the profit bit. And so that's where the sustainability. And if I get that right, I have impact. The problem is if you haven't got that bit right, whether it's through contracts, whether it's through service, whether it's through value, if you haven't got the money coming in, you can't do the impact. And I would challenge us in a space of charity and social enterprise is that, if we don't have that money, it's a what-if culture. It's a what-if mindset. What if only, the government give us more money, if only we changed it. I think we've just got to stop waiting. And in the lacking of resource, that's when the best innovation is created. And the innovation then creates the resource to keep innovating.
Very shared threads are with the answer that Celine also gave. And the final, sort of almost 2 minutes, back to you, Jonathan, for your tuppence worth on your view on the same question.
Yeah, I think that what we need, and I suppose it's just repeating partly what I've said, but what we need is we need to create the space for innovation. Again, reflecting back on the Harry Ferguson story, I've no doubt that Harry spent a lot of his time tinkering about, and trying a little thing and tinkering. That takes time, that takes space. We need to create the space for innovation. We need to make sure that we're innovating for the right purpose too. So that, again, a comment I made earlier, but I find that in the sort of community voluntary sector, there is innovation going on all the time, but so much of that innovation is for the purposes of survival. It's to keep our organisations in existence rather than innovating to improve the service delivery and actually improve the outputs for the clients that we're serving. And that needs to change. And I think that the only way we can really do that is, and I know I'm repeating this again, but is genuine co-design. That's maybe an overused phrase these days, but it needs to be all partners around the table, getting clarity around what it is that we're actually trying to deliver here. How best can we do this and create that bit of space to be able to innovate? One of the challenges I have in my organisation is I can't send people to innovation events or whatever it is because they're that busy down in the weeds just doing what they're doing to keep the organisation afloat. We need to create that space to allow them to be part of the innovation story.
I think that's a really nice point to end. And in the interest of making sure I don't get my knuckles wrapped, I think I want to say a big thank you to Jonathan, Dave, and Celine for the fastest 45 minutes I think I've been at in a long time. So thank you very, very much indeed.
Thank you so much, Catherine, and thank you to the panel. So many lessons there on, well, building from the ground up. I've never heard the phrase about the dangers of having too much money. That's a really interesting one for me. And ladies and gentlemen, go and buy David's bags. They're called Madlug. So forget your Hermes and your Louis Vuitton. Go for Madlug. You will be relieved to hear that it's time now not just for food for thought, but actual food. It's lunchtime, a great chance to relax, network a little, maybe enjoy a bit more of the campus here. Lunch, as you probably know, will be served in the huge marquee in the main square, or quad. If you need any help with directions, we have volunteers around the campus. They're only too happy to help. If I could ask everyone to think about making your way back here at around 1:30. We would like to kick off at 1:40. We have with us one of the most high-profile mayors, not just on these islands, but in Europe, I think. And it would be great to have a full hall to hear him and indeed another mayor from their great city of Manchester. So please go out, enjoy yourselves, and we'll see you, if you can be back just after 1:30, 1:40 we'd like to kick off. Thank you so much, and thanks again to our panel.